I'm like on the field in the IFL. Like, I'm running into the middle of the field during timeouts. I'm in the end zone when they're scoring touchdowns, which is so incredibly exciting. And another, great part about the IFL is we as broadcasters, everyone, fans at home, fans that are there, they get to be right in the middle of it. Like there's no barriers to what you can get. There's nothing that's filtered in the IFL.
Welcome into another great week, another great conversation. I have Caroline Fenton here from Yahoo Sports, talking a whole bunch of things going on. But first, we'll start out with just Caroline. How are we doing today?
Doing great. We were talking about this before you hopped on the podcast, but March is marching in the best possible way. I think this is one of the more underrated times of the sports calendar. Obviously, the NCAA Tournament, everyone knows it. Everyone loves it. We love it. I'll be in the thick of it. Check it out. We'll do a bracket show on Yahoo Sports. I'll do a women's basketball breakdown on Yahoo Sports Network on Monday. Shameless plug, check it out. But it's also like we've got the World Baseball Classic going on. We're in the thick of hockey. We're in the thick of conference tournament games on the men's side. We're in the thick of NFL free agency that's been waking me up throughout the night over the past couple of days. So it's an absolute blast to be doing what we do.
Hard to get away from a TV these days. You just want to be by a
your
TV,
phone,
by your computer,
media,
phone, anything.
Just constantly plugged in.
Yes. Now that we know a little bit of women's basketball's, who's going to be in the field and everything with conference tournaments. Obviously, I'm in Iowa, so I'll ask you about just Iowa. I mean, obviously, like the UCLA game, I kind of figured that's how it was going to go because UCLA has great bigs. But how do you see Iowa faring out?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when you get beat by 50 points in your conference tournament final, you're not going to feel great about it. But I think that's so much more of a testament to UCLA than it is Iowa, because I used an argument against Iowa, because I use that as an argument for why I think that UCLA should be the number one overall seed. All respect in the world to UConn, and I know UConn fans come for me all the time. I don't hate you, okay? But I think beating a team of Iowa stature, a top 10 team in the country, beating them the way that UCLA did, I thought was such a huge testament to the kind of team that UCLA is. Their size, their physicality, their depth, their experience. So, I think that Iowa's in really good shape. I don't think that Iowa's a national championship contender where things stand now. I look at UConn, I look at UCLA, I look at Texas, I look at South Carolina, I look at LSU. Pay no attention to the helmet behind me. That's not a homer take. I think there's 5 or 6 teams that are legitimate national title contenders. I think where things stand with Iowa right now, I think they're just a little bit young. Obviously, dealing with the injuries that they dealt with in the middle of the season, they took a hit. They lost 3 games in a row, including one to UCLA in the middle of the season, because they were just adjusting to life post-injury and adjusting to what their new lineup looked like. But I think as long as you have a player like Ava Hayden, who has been so incredibly consistent, who has stepped up in a big-time way, who can have, big-time performances as a sophomore, I think that Iowa's absolutely a team that's going to make some noise in the tournament.
Hilo Hayden, as I like to call her here in Iowa.
Yes.
Great nickname for her.
Such a great capital for women's basketball.
Yes.
Obviously, Caitlin Clark paved that path, but shout out to the Iowa fan base, the Iowa coaching staff for being able to build upon all of the success that Caitlin Clark brought to them. I mean, to have themselves right back in a place of being, a nationally recognized, being a top 10 team in the country after they lose, a legendary coach and a legendary player, I think is such an amazing testament to the investment that Iowa has made into women's basketball. So shouts out to Hawkeye fans.
It's become a home court advantage for them. I mean, they're winning games because of the fans that show up there. Yeah.
How many consecutive sellouts?
It goes all the way back to like Caitlin Clark's sophomore year, I believe, or junior year.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's incredible to see that level of support. I mean, of course, you're going to have that level of support locally and nationally when you have a player of Caitlin Clark's stature. Like, people just flock to greatness. No bird pun intended. But whenever you see that player graduate and go on to great things at the next level, it's really easy for that popularity to kind of dissipate, for people to not be as invested. But the fact that Iowa fans have, stayed true to that team and have consistently showed up, even when they don't have the best player on the planet, the most exciting player on the planet, I think is really, really awesome. And I think that's kind of a microcosm for women's sports as a whole, that you see, maybe your barrier to entry for women's sports is taken down because of a player like Caitlin Clark, or where I went to school, like Angel Reese and Flau'jae Johnson, or anywhere else, anywhere you see these superstars where people say, okay, I'm so intrigued by this person, I'm going to be invested into them. Well, that's just the barrier to entry that's broken down. Now you're invested. Now you're a fan. Now you know all of these players' names. Now you are, sucked in to the excitement that is women's basketball. And I think that's such a beautiful thing that Caitlin has not only done for Iowa, but has done for the sport as a whole, and has done for women's sports.
How have you seen women's sports evolve? Because you mentioned, you went to LSU, Angel Reese was there. Yeah. She's done her thing. Caitlin Clark's done her thing. How have you seen it evolve into what it is today, where everyone wants to talk about it?
We're talking about it.
Yeah.
Just a few years ago, when I was just getting into my career, if you talked about women's sports, it was honestly probably more performative than anything. Maybe it was a network or a channel or a station, whatever it might have been, that covered women's sports just to check a box, but not anymore. And that might still exist. And I think that we all can be better about intentionally covering women's sports and covering women's stories and digging deeper than just the biggest superstars and the most obvious storylines. I think that's what's next. But I think that now women's sports are being covered because they have to be. You can't ignore them anymore. There's a want, there's a desire, like there's a hunger for women's sports stories. And they're not like deep cuts anymore. You can find them and you can hear them by turning your TV on to ESPN or scrolling through social media or reading articles on The Athletic or wherever you get, your written journalism, that it's there, that we are living in it. We're immersed in it. Again, we can always do better. I think my ideal vision for women's sports is it is covered the exact same way that men's sports are. The tiny stories, the intricate stories, on a surface level, on a much deeper level. It's so ingrained in our everyday lives. Men's sports are, and women is getting that way, but I think that we can be better about it. But I think we've gotten past just showing up, and now we're being more and more intentional. And I think that's a really beautiful thing.
Yeah, you mentioned we still need to get better in it. I think one area, and we kind of saw this during that Big Ten championship game, was CBS, it was like the one time that they showed a Big Ten tournament game, and you had crews who knew the teams, covering the teams the whole tournament and knew how to pronounce names. And then you got to Bruce Pearl, who I know, great men's coach, but he's pronouncing Caitlin Clark, Caitlin Smith, and Lisa Bluter, Lisa Blunder. So
he didn't call Caitlin Clark Caitlin Smith. I didn't see that.
Yes, he did. It was at halftime. Yes. So this is an area where I think,
it's the bare minimum.
If you're going to cover, it needs to be people that have already covered the athletes or have covered a team for a whole year and can give it that coverage it deserves.
At the very least, we can pronounce names correctly. Mm-hmm. At the very least, we can get names right. Broadcasters are held to a very high standard, rightfully so, right? It's the greatest job in the world. I feel like the luckiest person in the world to be able to do this. It's also important to remember that we're human. And there are sometimes I say something and I mispronounce something or I misspeak and I don't even realize it. Because when you talk for 3, 4, 5 hours a day, you're bound to get something wrong, to slip something up. So I do always think that we can have grace for broadcasters. That doesn't always exist. That's easy for me to say as a broadcaster. But that's just, you're like blatantly wrong. Like you just blatantly didn't do the bare minimum amount of research that it requires. If I don't know how to pronounce a name, I either ask someone or I search it on YouTube and try and listen for broadcasters to say it. That takes 5 seconds. It's the easiest thing to do. This is somebody that's getting maybe their first recognition ever, or maybe it's their 15 minutes of fame. Like that's how superstars are built in March. The least that we can do when their families and their friends at home and their high school teachers and counselors are hearing their names, the least that we can do is say it correctly. Like Bruce Pearl is a legendary coach. Maybe he's not a legendary broadcaster, and that's okay. But let's put people who care about the sport and care about these stories in positions to tell them.
Exactly. And you also, we're talking about UCLA, UConn. I think that's probably the national championship. Are we like going too far saying that, or?
Oh, it feels like it. It really does. And if we get UCLA UConn, like sign me up for that
Oh
because I
yeah,
will have my popcorn popped and I will be sat watching it. But I don't want to ignore Texas. Like the statement that Texas just made beating South Carolina in the SEC championship game. That's in Greenville, South Carolina. That is a home game for the Gamecocks every year. I mean, it feels like Colonial Life Arena 2.0. So for Texas to go into that environment, a place where South Carolina is very comfortable, a place where South Carolina has won that game a lot. For Texas to go into that game and beat South Carolina as handily as they did, I don't have the box score in front of me, but it was a double-digit win. Every time that it felt like South Carolina was starting to kick it into gear, was starting to click, Texas just poured cold water right on it. Texas was so dominant in that game. Texas also has a lot of experience. I mean, you have a certified superstar in Madison Booker. You have Rory Harmon, whose impact doesn't show up on a box score. But if you watch Texas play, you understand how important Rory Harmon is to that entire operation. You have Vic Schaefer, who's been in this world for 4 decades. Not to age him. And he's also somebody who's beaten UConn. He did it when he went back to Mississippi State. So don't want to ignore Texas. I don't want to ignore South Carolina because I feel like South Carolina fans just book their hotel rooms and flights to the Final Four every single year because they can. Because it feels like it's inevitable that Dawn Staley is going to get her team there one way or another. Vanderbilt's another team that I think I would keep an eye on. I'm a little bit worried about their early exit in the SEC tournament. That myself and Cassandra Negley and Ice Young, my co-host on Hoops 360, Ice made this point of she wanted Vanderbilt to prove that they were ready for the moment, and they proved to us that they weren't. Maybe they learned from that. They learned from their blunders in the SEC tournament and are able to fix that and get that right for the NCAA tournament. So while they're not a team that I feel like is right now equipped to win a national championship, they're young. Michaela Blake's, I think she has a very strong case for being national player of the year. Sarah Strong's going to win it, but Michaela Blake deserves to be in the conversation. She's a sophomore. Her name's escaping me. Audrey Galvin, who's a freshman at Vanderbilt. She is one of the most electric freshmen in the country. She just won SEC Freshman of the Year. That your two best players are a sophomore and a freshman. Sometimes it takes some time to knock on the door for a national championship before you finally break through. So while I don't view Vanderbilt in that same light as a UCLA or a UConn, teams that have more experience, they're definitely a team that's going to be dangerous. So all of that to say, it does feel like the writing is on the wall that we're headed for a UConn UCLA national championship if all things go chalk. But Texas, South Carolina, Vanderbilt, LSU, I'll throw Oklahoma into the mix. I'll throw Iowa into the mix. All of these teams are not going to make that path incredibly easy for them. And also Texas's path. Yeah. Sorry to step over you. Texas winning the SEC championship game, they basically solidified the number 3 overall seed, which means they go from Austin to Fort Worth. I'll take that path.
Yeah, easy. Yeah, SEC and Big Ten is just so stacked for women's basketball. I mean, any one of those teams can win. Anyone.
Yeah, no, it is absolutely stacked, and it's really fun to watch those conferences. Like, it's fun to watch conferences that probably who are the elite of the elites. Like when you're watching the Big Ten, like it really is UCLA and everybody else. And I'm sorry to Iowa fans. I know that you have a big Iowa fan base, but we saw it on full display in the Big Ten championship game. Like it is what it is. Same thing with the SEC. Like I think Texas and South Carolina are just on a total and completely different level. But then you have that tier of LSU, of Vanderbilt, of all of these other teams that aren't going down without a fight. So it's so fun to watch these conferences where you might know what's going to happen, but all of these teams make it really, really interesting in the process.
Another thing you're tapping into this March is the IFL season getting underway. Indoor Football League, for anybody out there who doesn't know about it. I'm here in the Quad Cities. So Quad City Steamwheelers are one of the teams, and they were 1 win away from the championship game last year. So a lot of excitement for the team this year. What should we expect from what Yahoo is going to do for the league this year?
Yes, we are so excited to be partnering with the IFL. So first game is this Saturday. Like you mentioned, Quad City Steamwheelers and Fisher's Freight going down in Indianapolis. I will be there. Myself, Nate Tice, and Jason Fitz. We're kicking off the season. I'm so fired up to be part of it. I think what you can expect is just what you love about the IFL, but we're trying to elevate it even more. We're trying to make the broadcast match the passion and the energy and the excitement that exists for all the players and the coaches in this league, but also the very loyal fans that exist in this league. So we're trying to bring the IFL to you. We want to make it accessible. You can find it on the Yahoo Sports Network. So if you have a fast channel on your TV, you can find it there. You can find it on yahoosports.tv. And those are free and accessible to you whenever you want to get all of your IFL content. I think what I'm excited about is to tell the stories of all of these athletes who just absolutely adore the game. All of these athletes who are so passionate about not just the game of football, but about the IFL brand of football. Ground and pound, physicality, high scoring, high flying. It feels like it is football just in its truest and purest form. So this is my first year with the IFL, and I'm so excited to be in the middle of it.
50-yard field, hockey boards stay up, so the hits are just that much harder. And a lot of these guys out here, they have other part-time jobs on the side. So it's really like these are passionate players who are not giving up on their football dreams.
Yeah, and that's really what I love about it. And I talked to Quad City Steamrollers head coach Corey Ross.
Awesome guy.
Awesome guy. Like, I can see why any free agent in the league would be like, yeah I'm going to sign up to play for that guy. So knowledgeable, so energetic, just so passionate about his job. But he was like, for a lot of guys, like, this is their NFL. And we treat it like that. And as you should. If you're doing it, if you're giving it your time, and they give it a lot of time, they have to have, other gigs going on the side, but like, this is their full focus. They're in the buildings, practicing, in meetings, getting treatment 12 plus hours a day. Like, the level of dedication that they pay to this game and to this sport and to this league is really, really inspiring. And I am one of my old radio co-hosts, Derek Mason. He was in the league for 10 plus years, over a decade. And he said sometimes in the NFL, or guys that are playing at a really high level, you have to ask yourself, do you love the sport, or do you love what the sport does for you? Because it can be really easy to get caught up in the money and the fame and the attention and the lights and all of those wonderful things that the highest level of sports affords to you. But, you're not going to give it the level of attention that it needs if you're just in love with what the sport does for you versus what you can do for the sport. How can I make this sport better, just 1% better? How can I make someone's experience with the sport as a fan that much better? So, with these guys, it's all out of the true love for the game, the love for their communities. And that's my favorite part of doing what I do, is getting to tell the stories of people who just absolutely love their sport and what they can do for it.
Tapping into that more, on-site reporter role from your usual, daily talk shows and those types of things. What excites you most about that?
Yeah, it's one of my favorite parts of what we get to do. I do a show from here in my studio every morning, and I love that. I love that we get free reign with creativity. I love that I can give my just total unadulterated, unfiltered opinions. I love that. But also there's the side of me that itches for, actually being there in the action, getting to talk to the athletes, getting to talk to the coaches. So it kind of fills that other side of my passion for what I do, is actually, being boots on the ground right in the middle of it. It's fast, it's physical, it's exhausting at times, but that's the best part of it, is when your adrenaline is super high, when your heart is pumping and you get to just be totally in the thick of it. I feel like I get to have the best of both worlds. I get to have the lovely comfort of my own home doing Yahoo Sports Daily every morning. But I also get to be out there, like I'm like on the field in the IFL. Like, I'm running into the middle of the field during timeouts. I'm in the end zone when they're scoring touchdowns, which is so incredibly exciting. And another, great part about the IFL is we as broadcasters, everyone, fans at home, fans that are there, they get to be right in the middle of it. Like, there's no barriers to what you can get. There's nothing that's filtered in the IFL.
Even shooting my highlights, like, I got to make sure my head's on a swivel all the time, because there could be a ball coming your way or some guy diving over the boards, trying to catch it. Dedication level on a new level in that league.
Got to wear comfortable shoes for running out of the way.
No. The best rule, I don't know if you know about this rule, but the Deuce rule.
The Deuce.
So yes, it is the best rule. When they kick a field goal, it's worth 2 points. And you can say drop a deuce on TV.
I have never said that before, or at least on TV. I don't think I've ever said that in real life either. I am a lady, but I'm very excited about it. And too, we were encouraged to ask the head coaches and offensive coordinators, like, what's the play call? Can you imagine asking a college football coach or an NFL coach, like,
Yeah.
oh, like what play are you calling? They would look at me like I was absolutely insane. So that's another, other than just like physical access into the playbooks, access into these, these offensive and defensive masterminds that they have in the IFL is another really cool part of it.
Your daily show, you mentioned it on Yahoo Sports. You get to do it from your own home, so that's fun.
It is.
But what goes into that show? I mean, you're talking for 2 hours every morning. So what's the creative process with that show?
Yeah, it is. I would say 24/7. It is a 24/7 creative process, and we have wonderful producers. And I don't just say that just in case they might be listening. I say that because it's 1000% true. And we have a team that is all bought in, that all wants this show to be as best as it can possibly be. And we also have the free reign to be creative and to try different things and throw it at the wall, see if it sticks. And if it does, then amazing. Let's see how we can get it better. And if it doesn't, then okay, why didn't it work and how can we learn from it? So we are in communication pretty much constantly, sending tweets, sending ideas, sending thoughts, sending just anything that's happening in the world of sports. And, how can we be part of that conversation and how can we bring this story to sports fans that in a different way? There are so many wonderful shows out there like yours, like ours, on TV, on the radio, on satellite radio. So how do we make people want to click on our show of all of the shows that exist out there? So we always try and think outside the box a little bit of how we can present stories. And we've had a lot of fun with that. So we are pretty much in constant communication, texting, calling. We have pre-show meetings every morning. We have post-show meetings every afternoon. Just kind of hold ourselves accountable. What worked, what didn't, what do we like, what do we not like? We hash through ideas, and it takes us into these like crazy different webs of here's one story and how can we, go from there? And it's fun debate. It's fun discussion. So yeah, I would say it's a 24/7 process of throwing out ideas, and then our lovely producers take our ideas from there, and they're making graphics, they're making lower thirds, they're reaching out to potential guests to see how guests can supplement our conversations. It's very, very fun. It's hard because everybody's in different areas. We got different time zones. I think we have every time zone in America represented. But that's, dividing and conquering and all being on board with wanting to make the show as great as it possibly can be. As long as we have that mutual understanding, that's the only thing that matters.
The visuals on the show are awesome. You get the graphics and the videos, and you show the tweets on there. I like
that's
that.
our production team. They crush it.
Shout out to your production team. Yeah.
Truly shout out. If you look at our daily rundowns, it is full of links to tweets. It is full of custom photoshops. It's full of images. We could be talking about one thing that takes us to a totally and completely different story that we didn't, pre-agree upon. And boom, our production team has a photo of whoever I'm talking about or whatever I'm talking about, or a tweet that relates to it. So they are with it, they are on it, and they do so much behind the scenes prep work that I want to make sure that they get their flowers.
For sure. You've always also been in the digital space as well. Before you were at Yahoo, you did some sports talk radio. You worked for the big letters, ESPN as well, doing digital stuff. What have you embraced about the digital space and what's made it successful for you?
There's no rules. There are no rules in the digital space, which can be a little overwhelming, but it can also be incredibly empowering. I loved radio. I was doing some behind the scenes social media work at ESPN, loved it. I realized my true passion was being on air, talking about sports. So that's what brought me to Nashville, doing local sports talk radio in Nashville at 102.5 The Game. And I loved it, absolutely adored it. Every person that I met there, every show that I did there just made me so much of a better broadcaster. I was incredibly raw. It was my first job in radio. I think my one thing that frustrated me about terrestrial radio was you got a clock and you have to be true to it. And I'd be like, no, I have more to say. I want to talk more about this. It's not just breaks that you have to hit. But some days I was like, what do you mean I only have 3 hours to talk about this? So in digital, there's no rules. Like you can make up what, we were talking today, like, we were going to have a conversation about coaching hot seats. And I threw out a general manager and someone was like, do we want to do GMs? And I was like, heck yeah, there's no rules. We can do whatever we want. There is no clock that we have to be, we have to live and die by. we do have the wonderful privilege of being able to use graphics to supplement conversations that we're having, where on radio you have to, overcompensate for not being able to use graphics, which is also a very unique challenge, and a challenge that I do love when I get the opportunity to do radio. But I think that with digital, you can do whatever you want. And if you like it, keep doing it. And if you don't like it, don't do it again. Like, it's as simple as that.
What have you found that's worked for you? Because you've taken a bunch of different shows and brought a bunch of different viewers to it. So in this space, what have you learned about just bringing people to your work and people liking it?
I think authenticity is the first and main thing. If you're genuine and if you're authentic, if you are just your truest, most authentic self, people are gonna get attracted to that. People are gonna flock to that. And it's really hard to fake someone that you're not for 2 or 3 hours a day. That's exhausting. So you really can't like put on a face or, put on this persona that's not really authentically you, because I don't want to do that I don't want to put a mask on every day. That's tiring. So I think first and foremost, whether it's digital, whether it's radio, whether it's television, whether it's any other medium that might exist out there, if you are just your truest form of yourself, people are going to enjoy that and people are going to catch on to that.
What would be some advice you have for people who are trying to get things going in that same space?
Work hard, be nice to people, and be a sponge. Those have been I would say, the 3 pillars that have gotten me to where I am today, things that I've stayed very true to, and things that I hope will take me to wherever I go next. Work your ass off. There are so many sacrifices that I've made, nights that I haven't slept, mornings I've woken up way earlier than I would like to, holidays, time with family, time with friends. You need those things in your life. You need to make sure that you are filling up all of the cups in your life, but there's also sacrifices that you have to make in this job, and they're 100% worth it. Work hard, just be nice to everybody, whether it's somebody that can get you through to the next door or not. Like, whether it's somebody that's been in the business for 50 years or somebody that's been in the business for 15 minutes. Like, have respect for people. This job is way too difficult, to just, be a bully or to be bullied. And you'll never know who's going to be able to get you through to that next level. So always be nice to people and always be a sponge. Learn everything that you can. If it's feedback from people that you trust, take it. Take all of the feedback that you can get, even if it's a little humbling sometimes. It is, but just swallow your pride a little bit. Watch people. Watch yourself, listen to yourself, always try and be just a little bit better every single day. Take all of the little bits of criticism and little bits of advice that you can. And that'll do you well.
Awesome advice coming from the pro that you are. Yes. Yeah. In that space though, you have been able to go to places like Radio Row for the Super Bowl. You're at the national championship game for college football. I'm sure you're going to the Final Four probably too. Or
I am not going to the Final Four, unfortunately. I went to the women's Final Four last year, and it was an absolute blast. It's not in the calendar this year, but hopefully we'll get back very soon.
So what did you learn most about being in those spaces where there's a lot of people and chaos is going on, and you're meeting new people, you're interviewing new people off the cuff, those types of things?
Yeah, always do your research. Always want to come prepared. You never want to be stuck in a position where like somebody throws Christian McCaffrey in your lap and you're like, oh my God, Christian McCaffrey's in my lap, because that's literally what happened to me. I was at Radio Row when I was doing a show on Sirius XM, and they were like, hey, are you guys ready for Christian? And I was like, yeah. Like, when Christian McCaffrey, is coming, then you're going to be ready for him. So always do your research, and it doesn't mean that you have to be sitting down for hours and hours and hours every single day, but always be up to date with what's going on. Never want to be caught by surprise when you have a camera and a microphone in your face. And I would say the second thing, especially for young and up and coming broadcasters, you're supposed to be there. Like, don't be intimidated. Don't act like everyone else that's there is above you. If you're there, it's because that's where you are supposed to be. You have a space carved out for you. You deserve all of the, everything that comes to you when you're in those places. Don't let anyone bully you. Don't let anyone think that they're better than you. No, you're supposed to be there. You're meant to be there, and you deserve to be there. You've earned it.
You have their credential. You have your name on something, and you're in that spot.
Just like everybody else in the room has.
Embrace it. Yeah, embrace it.
Yeah. Have the confidence to go up to people and introduce yourself, whether that's, you know, a potential athlete that you want to interview, or whether that's somebody that you admire, if it's somebody in the business. Like, don't be shy. Have some sense of confidence and go out there and take advantage of the time that you have out there.
Exactly. 100%. Would not say it any better than that right there from Caroline. Caroline, where do you want to go with this? I mean, you've had a couple of different jobs now. You have your own show on Yahoo. You have one of the biggest shows on Yahoo. So where are you trying to take this?
I'm so happy where I am right now. You know, of course, always looking ahead to the future and what that might look like, but also just happy to be where my feet are, happy to be growing Yahoo Sports Daily. We are still in our infancy. So what comes next is taking Yahoo Sports Daily to the next level. Just getting more and more reps with that show, you know, trying to do more things and try new things with that show. So right now, just very, very happy, and it's going to wait and see whatever the world brings me.
That's what we all want. We all want to be happy in the industry and be doing what we want. So here we are, and you're doing great. And this show's doing great too to have you on. So make sure anybody who's out there listening for the first time, make sure you give the channel a sub and a like as well for this video.
And Caroline, any Steelers fans that are coming to the game in Indianapolis this weekend, let me know. Give me a wave. Come introduce yourself.
Yes, and then when you come to Quad Cities too, say hello. I'll say hello.
I don't know if Quad Cities is on my schedule. I'll double check. I don't think that it is, but hopefully that changes. Hopefully I'll get I'll get out there soon.
Maybe some playoff games. Maybe.
From your lips to God's ears.
Fingers crossed. All right, last thing, Caroline. Just give us your social media so people can follow your awesome work out there.
Yeah. You can follow me on Twitter at Caroline Fenton 1. You can follow me on Instagram just at Caroline Fenton. You can find me on Yahoo Sports Daily every morning from 9 to 11 a.m. Eastern time. That's on YouTube. That's on Yahoo Sports on Twitter. And that's on the Yahoo Sports network as well. So yahoosports.tv, and then on your fast channels. And then you can find me on Sirius XM. You can find me on Mad Dog Radio, College Sports Radio, SEC Radio, on a bunch of different sports channels there. And you can find me on the IFL all season long.
Lots of places to find Caroline.
I'm everywhere.
Caroline, I appreciate you hanging out with me here on Cousins Conversations.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it, Nick.